Good morning, family. It's Monday, and time for another episode of the Mason Jar. Um, this week, I want to focus on an idea I have about an investment strategy. I kind of touched on this before, talking about investing in the ingredients of the product that has everybody so excited. It's kind of like focusing on the domino effect or the chain reaction, not focusing on necessarily just the end, but the events and processes that lead to the expected end. Um, that's what I'm talking about this week. I'm focusing on a few areas, well, a couple of areas. First, I'm focusing on crypto. Everybody's always been excited about crypto. I haven't been that excited about crypto because I'm like, if it's money and you don't have anywhere you could spend it, it's not worth anything. So as a result, the only crypto I've held for an extended period of time is Cardano. And the reason I picked up Cardano and put it in my digital wallet to begin with is because there were a few African nations that were talking about using it and accepting it and using it as a currency of farming in a few countries in Africa. And so that's the reason why I picked up a little and I've held on to it for years. Um, but now we're getting to the point where we're expecting some deregulation and some further incorporation or maybe acceptance and wider usage of cryptocurrencies. Um, I'm telling myself it may be a good idea to get into it a little more and not necessarily into Bitcoin or Ethereum or one of those other ones directly. But what I am looking at is Riot, 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 and that's also the stock symbol. It's a mining firm, a crypto mining firm, and that's one of the ways I'm getting into it. I'm also in BITO and a couple of others. I'm not going to mention all the stock symbols, but Riot, RIOT, the mining firm, it's currently, I think it's about $13 per share, or was when I last looked at it, and it has an average price target of $18.25 per share. So that's where I am with that. I'm also looking at AI. AI, everybody's been going crazy over AI for a while now. And so, again, I'm not just looking at the chips or I'm not even, well, I'm looking at the chips, not the chip producers. I'm looking at the computer manufacturers and the softwares that are going to use the chips. But even more than that, I'm starting to focus on the data centers, not necessarily who's going to be constructing the data centers, but some of the things the data centers are going to need. And I mentioned this earlier, um, uranium. I'm expecting that to eventually become um, the power source of choice. You see them talking about restarting nuclear reactors and all of that. And that's why I started focusing on uranium. I'm not an expert in the area. I'm just going based off some news stories that I saw. So, uranium and the symbol that I was focused on for uranium is URA. Now, I'm also focusing on a power company, Oklo, AK, I'm sorry, OKLO. Um, we're expecting them, well, I'm expecting them to be a big player in producing power for some of these data centers. But I have a brother who has worked in HVAC and has talked about it a lot. And we were talking about how data centers are going to need something to keep them cool. Your computer gets hot, it's going to shut down. Um, and so one of the chemical makers, I think it's pronounced Chemours, is Chemours. The stock symbol is CC. Chemours is the company that historically has produced Freon, and they're also going to produce the new coolant that's probably eventually going to replace Freon. So I'm focusing on Chemours and their stock symbol is CC. And lastly, I'm looking at Johnson's Controls. Johnson's Controls, they make chillers, and hopefully this will play out and they'll be the main one to provide chillers to these data centers. The Johnson's Controls stock symbol is JCI. So again, this episode of the Mason Jar is focused on not the end product, but the things that go into the end product. So I'm looking at crypto, but not necessarily the actual cryptocurrencies, but a mining firm, RIOT. I'm also looking at AI, but not necessarily the chips or just the data centers, but the energy and the coolants that are going to be used to run the data centers. Um, that's this week's episode of the Mason Jar. Remember, as always, the motto is to get money, keep money. If you have any questions, concerns, outbursts, or you just want to give some feedback or chop it up, hit me up in my inbox. Also, if you are researching an idea, I have more free time than a lot of people. So if you want a partner in your research, let me know. I'll holler at you next week, though. Remember, get money, keep money. Be easy.